Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. For today's second video, we'll extend out beyond that, looking at weather the next couple of weeks with the GFS extended runs, operational and parallel. The ECM ensembles also runs around a couple of weeks. I'll be a little bit at the end. Extending out even beyond that, we'll be talking at the very end of the video about the February to April period. So, going to be quite an interesting video. I hope you find it interesting and informative. We've just released JMA Friday. And that is quite a shocker this week. It's going for increasingly blocked and cold conditions for the UK and for Ireland. And for many parts of Northern Europe, actually, through the second half of January and into the start of February. So, the indications are that if you like mild weather, make the most of the next few days, really. Temperatures will be holding up through the next few days, but temperatures then gradually sliding away into what could be a very cold and wintry end to January and start to February. JMA Friday is here on the homepage. Have a look at that. It's just above the snow dash. Just scroll down the page a little bit. Gazovitz, and you will be able to see JMA Friday. So it's an interesting update. It's quite an important update, I think, for the winter of 2018-19, which has been a very mild first half of winter, but maybe we're going to have a colder second half to cancel it out. That would be in line with what we was expecting in the Gazovitz winter forecast, of course. But before I do anything else, I've got to just say a big thank you to our latest PayPal donors. So I've had a new donation to Gazovitz. So I'm going to say a big thank you to Brian Sharkey. Brian Sharkey has become Gazovitz's latest donor. So a big thank you to Brian for doing that. And a big thank you to all of the PayPal donors for Gazovitz. If you would like to become a PayPal donor for Gazovitz, then all you need to do is come to gazovitz.me PayPal page, sign into your PayPal account. Most people have one of those, of course, and you give us a one-off donation through your PayPal account. And you will get a mention in videos. We'll give you a shout out. We'll say thank you very much for becoming a donor, unless you'd rather stay anonymous, and then we will say something like, thank you to this anonymous donor, something a little bit like that. If you would like to say anonymous, just leave a little note with your donation. But otherwise, you will get a mention, you get a shout out in the videos, and we'll say thank you very much for doing that. And big thank you to Brian Sharkey for becoming our latest donor. Alternatively, there is Patreon as well. So, if you would like to become a patron for Gazovitz, we have 53 patrons so far. If you would like to become a patron of Gazovitz, you just come to Gazovitz's Patreon page. We link to both PayPal and Patreon in the description at YouTube and also on the pages at Gazovitz. So again, just come here, sign up for a Patreon account, and then you can pledge a one-off donation, ongoing donation, to Gazovitz. It can be anything from $1 a month upwards, so it doesn't have to be a large amount of money at all. And by doing that, you become a patron for Gazovitz. Again, you get a mention videos, say thank you very much for doing that, unless, again, you'd rather stay anonymous. If you would rather have a mention for your website or for your business, then that's absolutely fine as well. We're happy to do that for you. So it's just really what you want and what you would like to get out of your donation. So again, a big thank you to all of the patrons. A big thank you to all of the donors helping us to pay for Gazovitz and keep the website online and keep all of the content online too. So a big thank you to all of the donors and all of the patrons. Big thank you, or a special thank you, to Brian Sharkey for becoming our latest donor for Gazovitz. Right, we've got a few pictures to show before we start off. So, being sent some pictures from Frank Kromak in Austria. This is the picture outside of Frank's, I'm not sure if that's back door or front door, but anyway, it's very deep snow outside of either Frank's front or back door. Very deep snow over there in Austria. Winter is really biting, and there they have another picture. I think this is from a day or so ago. Again, deep snow drifts in the Austrian countryside. Very deep snow indeed, and looks like they've been hit pretty bad there in Austria. Some very deep snowfalls indeed. I'm not sure what the total snow depth is, but it looks like it's pretty deep, I have to say. These pictures taken today, sunshine has returned to where Frank is in Austria. Again, look how deep the snow is. good job they've cleared the back door, otherwise they won't be able to get out of the door. And again, very, very deep snow indeed over there in Austria, with some pretty big icicles as well, telling us that not only is it very snowy, it's also bitterly cold as well. Big freeze type conditions over in Austria. But there's the snow laying on very deep, crisp and even, but with a nice blue sky and sunshine to enjoy as well. So it looks pretty, but no doubt it is extremely cold over there in Austria. And then not only is this cold weather in Austria, it's also in Finland as well. So this was sent through, not sure how to pronounce now, I think it's Erika or Eriki. So this was sent through from Eriki or Erika in Finland, and again we've got some pretty deep looking snow there up in Finland. Bitterly cold conditions and very snowy weather engulfing many northern, central and eastern parts of Europe at the moment. If you would like to have your weather pics featured in the videos, excuse me, then there's a few ways you can do it. You can share them with us on our social media accounts. So we're on Facebook and Twitter. We've linked to Gazservice Facebook and Twitter pages in the description at YouTube and on all of the pages at Gazservice. You can share them in the comment box at Gazservice's website, or you can email them to us at gazservice@gmail.com. And if you have time in the videos, we are always happy to feature your weather pics. Reason it's been so very cold lately is that we've had an Arctic airstream across many northern and eastern parts of Europe. That is relenting a little bit now, when it's just starting to turn slightly into the west around this area of high pressure that's sitting to the southwest of the UK. But you can see the big trough in the jet stream, a dip in the jet stream here, indicated by this black line, indicates that still in these northern and eastern parts and southern, southeastern parts of Europe, we're still tapping into that very cold Arctic air. The upper air temperatures don't look all that dramatically cold, really. It's not a dramatically cold upper air temperature, at least not what we've got at the moment. So we have got the -5, -10 isotherms there across some central parts of Europe, close to like Austria. But to be honest, it's not a hugely dramatically cold upper air temperature. The thicknesses aren't that cold either. We've got the 5-10 line, however, extending down well into Mediterranean, which is quite unusual. That 5-10 line is covering sort of the whole of Italy, virtually most of Corsica, Sardinia. It's even covering some parts of the Balearic Islands, Mallorca, Minorca, Ibiza, within that 5-10 thickness line. So you see again where the trough is within the jet stream. It's in this area where we've got this 5-10 thickness line. Remember, that's cold air within that 5-10 line. When you're within that, that's one of the minimum requirements to get snow. But the upper air temperatures aren't all that dramatically cold. But what's happening is that down on the surface it is very, very cold indeed. These are the dew points. You can see how the severely cold air extends down from sort of Russia into eastern and then central southern parts of Europe. It looks really cold over the Alps, doesn't it? But southern parts of France, for example, down to Spain and Portugal, looking really cold from there. And even through the Mediterranean, looking quite a lot colder than you would expect it to. Italy looks cold, and also around the Balkans, going down to southeastern Europe, the upper air temperatures look cold. So these are the maximum temperatures this afternoon across Europe. You see most parts of Europe are going to be like having below freezing temperatures, really. So a widespread ice day for many parts of Europe, particularly severely cold in the east and the northeast of Europe. But these very cold conditions do extend into many central areas, so like Germany, France, even down into some parts of central northern Spain. It is struggling to get all that much above freeze, which actually isn't that unusual. Northern Spain can be unusually cold. You normally associate Spain very hot conditions, but up there near the Pyrenees, in the north of Spain, it can actually be really quite cold indeed. We've got one of those situations going on at the moment. Obviously, UK and Ireland, perched out on the edges of Europe, we're a lot milder, although it is quite chilly, but nowhere near as cold as it is over on the continent. However, that could be changing quite soon. So this is the Arctic Oscillation Observed and Forecast chart. This is what we're going to be keeping an eye on over the next few days, see whether we're going to get this tropospheric response to the southern stratospheric warming. So since the end of last year, we've been talking about the southern stratospheric warming. It happened over the North Pole at 10 HPA at the end of December, just before the new year. And we saw the temperature going up something like 50, 60 degrees Celsius in a few days over the North Pole. That led then to a reversal of the zonal winds and also a split in the polar vortex at its roots. And it moved down to 30 HPA, it got closer to the troposphere of that warming. So the southern stratospheric warming did everything that we expect from a southern stratospheric warming, at least a southern stratospheric warming that's going to have an impact on the troposphere. And now we're waiting to see just what exactly the tropospheric response is going to be. So the black line here tells us where we've been with the Arctic oscillation. The red lines at the end show where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. So we can go right way back into the autumn with this, where the Arctic oscillation generally is in its positive phase. Did go through a period of negativity in the second half of December. And then since then, been a little bit up and down. So the first half of December was generally positive with the AO. We went a little bit negative into the middle part of the month, and then positive again, or positive to sort of neutral to very weakly positive late December and into early January, after which we've seen a downward trend. That's where we are right now. We're in solidly negative territory with the AO, and it looks like the GFS ensembles are forecasting the AO to stay in pretty negative territory, actually. And we have got a few ensemble members here that are now starting to go off the cliff into very negative territory indeed. Those will be producing really extensive northern blocking. But it does look as though the middle and then into second half of January, which is this period just here, is going to be keeping quite negativity of the AO. This tells us there's likely to be a high pressure close to the Arctic. Remember, it's always the weather that's driving the index. So the reason the AO is negative, because there's going to be some high pressure up close to the pole, and that is northern blocking, and that's what we look for after a sudden stratospheric warming, northern blocking, to push cold air out of the pole and down into the mid latitudes. That's the route to getting sustained, locked in high latitude blocking. This is the NAO, so again, same idea. The black line here tells where we've been with the NAO. The red lines at the end, where GFS ensembles forecasting the NAO to go. We're positive to neutral at the moment with the NAO, and it looks like you can go a little bit more positive actually up to the middle part of January. But then it looks like the second half of January, that's this period just here, looks like we've got a downwards trend within the NAO now. So hinting, anyway, that the NAO is going to start to shift, I think, in the second half of January. Particularly, I would have thought, in the final week or so of the month. It looks like the NAO is moving into negative territory. So possibly by the end of January, we'll see the AO and the NAO in negative territory. If we do, that could start to lock us in to a proper wintry setup, a proper blocked and cold wintry type pattern. That's the kind of thing that JMA Friday was hinting at, which we released, as I say, earlier on today, looking at the Japanese CFS V2 models. They're very much hinting that by the end of January we are locked into proper high latitude blocking and potentially very cold and wintry conditions indeed. We might be seeing the first signs of that within the AO and the NAO observed and forecast chart. We'll be keeping a very close eye on that over the next few days. GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks are looking like this. Looking at Poole today, down on the south coast. Someone's asked me to have a look at Poole. By the way, we have a lot of towns and cities to get through. I've been asking you to come up with your towns and cities for this section of the video, looking at the ensembles. We've got loads of them to get through. So we've got Highwick, Glasgow, Loughborough, Irby, London, Penzance, Uttoxeter, Bradford. The list goes on. So we are well and truly well supplied with towns and cities to look at for this ensemble section of the video. When I've got through the list a little bit, I'll ask you to add a few more places, but for the moment we have around a month's worth of different locations. So big thanks to all of you for suggesting your local towns and cities. So this is how things are looking with the GFS ensembles for Poole at the moment. Next few days going to be generally quite mild. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Poole. So quite mild through the weekend inside of next week. Then the drop through the early to middle part of next week in the temperature is clearly defined there. We're going underneath the red line with most of those GFS ensembles. And then we go through into the sort of final week to 10 days of January, this period just here. And it does look like we're keeping things quite cold, really. The trend within the GFS ensemble is to keep pretty cold upper air temperatures going through the second half of the month. Still not seeing many of these ensemble members dropping into the freezer. So they are cold. They are between -5 and -10 at 850 HPA. That's cold enough for snow, most definitely. To go into the freezer and have like sub-zero maximum and severe frost and widespread snow drifts and all that kind of thing, you normally go between -10 and -15 at 850 HPA. Now, there are one or two ensemble members now beginning to dip underneath -10, you'll notice. Not going down to -15, but certainly going underneath -10. Most would be very cold if they came off. So, again, not hinting or not seeing great deal of sign of going into the freezer before the end of January yet. We may do in the end, but not much sign of it in the GFS ensembles yet. But certainly cold enough for snow, and there are a few very cold GFS ensemble members now starting to appear. Precipitation wise, lots of dry weather over the next few days, from around middle of next week onwards, turning more unsettled. So it's the same story as we've been seeing through the week, really, with the videos. As it's turning colder through the course of next week and in the second half of the month, it's also turning more unsettled, and that does provide us with the idea that not only is there likely to be increasing risk of rain, there may be an increasing risk of snow as well as we're going into the second half of January. Temperature anomalies from the 11th to 19th January, still milder than average, still a little bit above average in the week ahead. Expect those to start trending colder, I think, in the next few days. Precipitation anomaly, still drier than average, so this mild dry theme that we've had since Christmas continues for now, but I think it is starting to run out of road, it's starting to run out of steam, and I would expect these charts, anomaly charts, to trend both colder and also wetter, more unsettled in the days ahead. We will keep a close eye on them, of course. This is the GFS operational run, so we're starting on Monday, when we've still got this area of high pressure just to our southwest. So up to Monday, still bathed in those relatively mild westerly winds. We go through to Tuesday and Wednesday, increasingly unsettled. There's quite an active cold front moving down across the country on Tuesday to Wednesday, taking a band of heavy rain and introducing a colder northwesterly wind. So we do get a push of cold air from the north temporarily around the middle of next week. Then this next area of low pressure starts to move in during the second half of next week. That's coming into cold air, has quite cold air behind it as well, so we've probably got to think about snow with that area of low pressure, and that's particularly for the north. At the south it's rain, but on the northern side of this low pressure, which is primarily Scotland, possibly Northern Ireland and Northern England, but I think primarily Scotland, second half of next week maybe giving some fairly heavy snow. That moves out of the way by next weekend. This is Saturday the 19th of January. The wind swings back into the north. Cold air starts to tuck back in from the north, and another weather system comes in on Sunday the 20th. Again, that's coming into cold air and also has cold air ahead of it, so there is potential for some snow with that. Again, probably primarily in the north, but maybe a little bit further south than sort of the end of next week. So as these areas of low pressure come in, it's getting progressively colder with them, and so the risk of snow gets progressively greater. We get to day 10, that's how we're looking. Area of low pressure is sort of over the top of the country at that point, so we're talking about showers or longer spells of rain and maybe snow over Northern Hills. And then watch what this area of low pressure does around Iceland. So we've got this low around Iceland at day 10, Monday 21st of January. That then starts to dive southwards. This is Monday the 21st of January. That low pressure is diving southwards across the country, and eventually by Tuesday 22nd of January it's to our south, it's across northern France, and then we start to open the door to really cold easterly winds. So these easterly winds would drive in very cold air from the east, and they would bring heavy snow showers to many eastern parts of the country as well. Bitterly cold easterly wind is then through the country, and we're in the extended range now, we're in the unreliable time frame, but by Tuesday 22nd of January, bitterly cold east to northeasterly wind is feeding in across the country. There's the upper air temperatures, certainly cold enough for snow, and maybe quite persistent and heavy snow for some eastern parts of the country. High pressure then reaches over the top of the country within cold air, brings a lot of hard overnight frost, and that's how we look as we go into a very extended range. Still cold. Notice heights are rising over Scandinavia. We're going to have a go at turning the wind into the east. We finish up really poised between high pressure and very cold air across Scandinavia and northern Europe, and low pressure trying to get back in from the Atlantic. Probably some sort of widespread snow event associated with that. There's the upper air temperatures looking really cold over Scandinavia, and that really cold air is trying to get across the North Sea into the UK. The GFS operational run is turning things increasingly cold and wintry through the second half of January. This is the parallel run. Again, we have high pressure to the southwest of the country on Monday, keeping that milder southwesterly wind going. Then through next week, it's turning more unsettled and colder. The first push of cold air from the north happens around Wednesday to Thursday. Could bring some wintry weather to northern parts of the country. Then we build up this ridge, so that'll produce quite a lot of frost in the second half of next week. Then it all goes rather slack. Those areas of low pressure not making as much progress as they did on the operational run as we head up towards day 10. That's how we look at day 10. It's Monday, 21st of January. So we're still within quite cold air. We are trying to move a weather system in from the northwest. And again, there might be some snow potential with that as that area of low pressure tries to move in from the northwest. And then we get this area of low pressure diving down across the country again, very similar to what the GFS operation run is showing. This area of low pressure that starts around Iceland sinks southwards across the UK into central parts of Europe. That's a very unusual thing for an area of low pressure to do. It tells you that the atmosphere and the jet stream are acting abnormally, and that's how we look as we go up to Wednesday the 23rd of January. Obviously we're beyond day 10 now, but we are starting to build up a blocking feature close to Greenland and Iceland. This is kind of like the beginnings of northern blocking. The trough of low pressure has slipped down into central southern parts of Europe, and we're pulling a very cold wind in from the east, and then we find ourselves getting locked in to a prolonged cold and wintry spell of weather. That's how we finish up with the parallel GFS, proper high latitude blocking around Greenland. Low pressure is going to have a go at moving in from the Atlantic. That is screening out the chance of a widespread snow event there on Sunday the 27th of January. So we've got the operational and the parallel GFS runs in agreement that the further on into second half of January going, the colder it's getting and the greater the risk of snow. ECMWF looks like this. Northerly winds, or northwesterly winds I suppose, on Monday. A little bit more of a northerly compared to the GFS, so it might even feel a little bit chilly on Monday, but the first push of proper Arctic air arrives Wednesday to Thursday as a cold front moves southwards across the country and turns the wind properly into the north. Then we build a ridge through the country into the second half of next week. That will produce a lot of dry weather, but also plenty of frost. And then in the more extended range, we develop this area of low pressure out to the west of the UK. Again, this is running into cold air that's sitting over the country, and it has quite cold air following along behind. So again, there is the threat, no more than that, there is a threat of snow there around days 8, 9 and 10, rain or snow, and whether that area of low pressure that's around Iceland there, whether that low will then start to dive southwards in that direction as the GFS parallel and operational runs are showing, and allow wind to turn into the east and the northeast. Whether that would happen, of course, it's speculative because we can only get to day 10 with the ECM, but it is pretty much in line with what the GFS operational and parallel runs are showing. The ECM ensembles are showing an increasingly cooling trend. This is for De Beeld in Holland, so at the moment, and over the next week or so, this going to be pretty mild in Debilt, but you can see that downwards trend within the ECM ensembles. In fact, for Debilt, it finishes up pretty much locked into the freezer by the time you get through to 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th of January. We're basically staying around or below freezing all day, with a risk of some very hard overnight frost, and the risk of snow is increasing. These are the snow spikes, so no snow in Debilt for the next week, but then the snow spikes are picking up big time as we go into the final week to 10 days of January. The postage stamps from the ECM ensembles are looking like this. So we've to day 10, which is of course the 21st of January, we've got 51 out of 51, 100% of ECM ensemble members have the ridge out to our west in the Atlantic, with the below average heights to the east, and so they're pulling down those cold northwesterly, or possibly for some of them even northerly winds, in line with what both the control and the operational ECM runs are showing. At 2 weeks away, 360 hours, the postage stamps look like this. This is for the 26th of January. We've got blocking out with 23 of those ECM ensemble members blocking around Greenland, with below average heights to the south, and they're pulling in cold northeasterly winds as well. We've got 12 that have the high pressure centred through the middle of the Atlantic. So these ones are bringing in more of a westerly flow, not quite as much cold potential with those ones. Then we've got 11 that actually have even more intense northern blocking close to Greenland. These ones just here have real northern blocking to the north of the country and extending into the middle of the Atlantic as well, with the below average heights over and to the southeast of the country. That's a deep trough city to our south. They're very cold. They're putting in the wind from a northeasterly direction. And then finally we've got a minority option of just 5 that have a trough of low pressure, an area of low pressure. Colours are so intense it's hard to make this out, but we're around there. Area of low pressure centred over top of the country. They're very unsettled, very wet, and probably not overly cold. But between the 23 ensemble members there and the 11 there, this box just here, which does include the control ECM ensemble member, and these 11 just here, that makes it like 34 out of 51 members of the ECM ensembles that are going for really quite cold and wintry conditions in 2 weeks' time, and that is an upgrade, I think, from the ECM ensembles compared to what we had, what we saw a day or so ago. The extended ECMWF temperature anomalies, this is from the Hungarian Met Office, is getting ever colder. So we look at this on a Tuesday, of course, but I'll just very quickly talk you through these week by week temperature anomalies. So this is week 1, the 14th to the 20th of January. Notice Northern Europe very cold in the week ahead, turning a little bit cooler for the UK. Not particularly cold yet, but certainly going a little bit cooler compared to what we've had just recently. But then this is how week 2 looks. This would be 21st to the 27th of January. And most of northern, particularly central, northern and western Europe, being plunged into very cold conditions, going into the freezer across Scandinavia, some central parts of Europe through that week, the 21st to the 27th of January. And then this goes on. This is a prolonged cold spell that the ECMWF 30-day or 46-day forecast is going for today. So really cold across much of northern, central and western Europe. Temperature anomalies are around 1 to 3 degrees below average there from the 28th of January to the 3rd of February. And then even into week 4, which is before to the 10th of February, still looking colder than average through most parts of northern, central and western Europe. The precipitation anomaly shows why that's happening, with very extensive drier than average conditions to the north of the UK, which is indicating blocking areas of high pressure, high latitude blocking sitting there in the northern latitudes, which pushes that cold air out of the pole and down into Europe. And this cold weather could be extended even beyond that. The latest seasonal update from the UK Met Office model has been released today. This is the mean sea level pressure anomaly for February, March and April, so going well into the spring. And it really is painting very extensive northern blocking indeed. Look at all this red that we've got sitting way to the north around Greenland and going to the north of Scandinavia and into Siberia. Very, very extensive high latitude blocking sitting over the North Pole, with this trough of low pressure sitting over and to the south of the UK, and that would be favouring winds from an easterly or northerly direction. That's going well into the spring. That's a mean sea level pressure anomaly for February, March, April. The temperature anomaly for February, March, April is colder than average for the UK and for Ireland. And it's also looking quite a bit wetter than average, or above average precipitation anyway. You can see where the blocking is, see where it's dry than average, close to Iceland and Greenland. But for us, actually it's wetter than average. And of course, with cold average temperatures and northerly easterly winds favoured, there is a risk of snow, you would have thought, with that. So once this gets going, and it looks like it's going to start getting going in the next week to 10 days, once it gets going, it could be an on-off feature for quite some time. We may have to start thinking about a bit of a delayed spring this year. Hopefully we won't have anything as cold as the spring of 2013, when, I'm sure you remember, it was still freezing cold. The ground was frozen solid, even into the first week of April 2013. I'd be surprised if we get anything quite that extreme, but of course the weather is always looking for ways to surprise us. But I would be surprised if we had anything that extreme. But it could be that this is on and off, this colder weather, for some time. So maybe have to think a bit about a delayed spring this year. But anyway, let's worry about that a little bit closer to the time frame. For now, what we're focusing on is a change next week to not particularly cold weather initially, but certainly colder than we've been used to through this winter. And by the second half of next week, there may already be a little bit of wintry potential for parts of the north. And then as we go further on into the final week to 10 days of January, it could get progressively colder. And by the end of January, we may find a genuine northern blocking feature turning up somewhere around Greenland. If we do, then that could herald a really cold end to January, with really cold conditions lasting into the start of February as well. Right, that's it for your videos today. Hope you found them interesting. We'll be back tomorrow with weekend forecast, and of course we will have a week to 10 day video update as well, so come back for all the updates tomorrow. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.